We might as well call it the OG contraband. Learn the facts. Senate hearing with Jerome Powell.
I think we all know that the debt increase was much larger under President Trump in the Republican Senate than it has been since. Chair Powell, thank you.
Yes, we do. Just like Biden quoted the king of the libs, we know that 25% of all debt was issued under Trump, and 25% of all dollar bills in the 200-year history were printed by Trump.
What goes wrong in our economy? A global pandemic, a war in Eastern Europe, weather disasters. Profits somehow always manage to go up. Workers are left paying the price. As you've noted, Chair Powell, the Fed's tools are only one element in our fight against inflation. It's a complex problem. Interest rates are a single, we know, blunt tool. Raising interest rates can't rebuild our supply chains and fix demand imbalances from the pandemic. Raising interest rates won't end Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine. Raising interest rates won't prevent avian flu from devastating 1/3 of our egg supply or weather disasters from destroying key crops. And raising interest rates certainly won't stop big corporations from exploiting all of these crises to jack up prices far beyond the increase in their costs. Last year, corporate profits hit a record high. Corporate PR chiefs assure us that these companies just have to raise prices. Their costs are going up. The workers just want to be paid too much. They have no other choice, they tell us. Yet when you look at their profits and their executive salaries and their stock buyback plans, it sure doesn't look like corporations have exhausted every available alternative. The chief economist of global wealth management at UBS wrote, "The Fed should make clear that raising profit margins are spurring inflation. Companies have passed higher costs on to consumers, but they've also taken advantage of circumstances to expand profit margins. The broadening of inflation beyond commodity prices is more profit margin expansion than wage cost pressures." Think about that. From a chief economist at UBS, we've seen encouraging trends. That isn't happening. And there are other ways we can bring prices down. Instead of lowering demand, again, making people poor, laying people off, denying worker raises, we can speed up and strengthen our supply chains. We can bring critical manufacturing back to the U.S. We can rebuild our infrastructure. It's what we're doing with the CHIPS Act, with the Inflation Reduction Act, with the bipartisan infrastructure bill. For the first time in decades, we're finally recognizing the damage that I and many of my colleagues warned the corporate offshoring would do to our economy. Look at East Palestine, Ohio, a community that Senator Vance and I have visited a number of times recently. America learned about this small town last month when a Norfolk Southern train derailed and spewed hazardous material into this community. East Palestine is more than just a disaster headline. Columbiana County was once the center of American ceramics manufacturing, at one time producing 80% of ceramics of dishware in this country. One county produced 80% of it. When I was there last week, I was talking to the sheriff at the 1820 Candle Company. He was talking about how the last one closed just a few years back. Like so many industries, these jobs moved overseas, and we know why. The same reason Norfolk Southern cuts cost at the expense of safety, eliminating one third of its workforce in the last 10 years. Then you're surprised with these derailments? It's the same reason corporations now keep prices high, even as supply chains stabilize. It's the Wall Street business model. Chair Powell knows that. I know that. My Republican colleagues and Democratic colleagues know that. It's a Wall Street business model. Colleagues know that. It's a Wall Street business model. Quarter after quarter, corporations are expected to cut costs at any cost. They skimp on safety. They move production overseas to countries where they can pay workers less because of trade deals that they lobbied for. And Wall Street demands they post profit increases, even in the middle of a global pandemic. That's the problem with our economy.
While many politicians are an embarrassment to Ohio, like Jim Jordan and Mike DeWine, we found out he's funded by Norfolk Southern, which is his second highest donor. Sharrod Brown just truth-bombed the whole room and represented Ohio in epic fashion, even saying what Biden alluded to in a very more clear way, that this is price gouging. As the prices surged, record profits were made by these industries. They are like a proof of price gouging. We have definitive proof that this has nothing to do with Joe Biden. And he also talked about the huge, I didn't even realize it was this big, 1/3 of the egg production that dropped. And he even talked about the offshoring of jobs. And that was pretty interesting because this is something I've pointed out. Who sourced their products from China? It wasn't like the government mandated your job went over there. Republican companies like Walmart, Amazon, and Elon Musk back in the day when he owned eBay, they started sourcing all their products from China. And we know that those business owners, 70% of them are Republican, and we see them waging war against the United States right now. The United States can be summarized as a battle, a war zone between private industry and the government and the elected officials that you and I elected. And lastly, Sharrod Brown is showing Ohioans why these train derailments happen, and it's coming from the corporate culture, where they cut corner after corner to raise the profits. He talked about they laid off 1/3 of their workforce until finally trains are wrecking all over the place. But magically, they still have more money than ever to give Mike DeWine his bribe. And before I go, I want to show you this. These are total hazmat incidences by year. And keep in mind that it's not only trains that can dump dangerous chemicals all over the place. I want you to look at 2019, when Trump was in office after 4 years of deregulation. He broke the record. More hazmat incidences than have ever been created, clear back to the beginning of the millennium, 21 years of data, or 19 years of data. And so it's pretty clear to me, Trump started this trend. He deregulated. There's hundreds of video clips of him bragging about how he deregulated. And we're suffering the consequences. And Ohio got hurt because of their own choice for president.